Good evening, I'm Candace Goodman. Tonight's Good News Report is about something that quietly shapes millions of lives, yet very few people are ever taught how it actually works. Cities, not just where we live or work, but how cities function as systems of power in the modern world. Tonight we're going to explain how megacities form, why only a small number exist, and what that means for the opportunities people experience in their lives. Here is the headline. The modern global economy runs on roughly 30 to 35 megacities. That estimate comes from research by the United Nations World Urbanization Prospects, the Brookings Institution Global Metro Monitor, and urban scaling research from the Santa Fe Institute. For this report, we used a simple standard. A megacity generally has around 10 million people or more in its metropolitan area. It has major transportation systems such as international airports or global ports. It has large universities and global companies operating there, and it produces economic activity that influences the national or global economy. When cities reach this level, they stop behaving like towns. They begin behaving like economic engines. China currently has the largest group of megacities. Cities like Shanghai, Beijing, Shenzhen, Guangzhou, Chongqing, Chengdu, Tianjin, and Hangzhou. India follows with cities like Mumbai, Delhi, Bangalore, Hyderabad, Chennai, and Kolkata. The United States has a smaller group led by New York City, Los Angeles, Chicago, and the Washington, D.C. region. Japan concentrates much of its economic activity in Tokyo and Osaka. Brazil's largest economic centers are São Paulo and Rio de Janeiro. Europe spreads influence across cities like London, Paris, and Moscow. When you step back and look at the map, the world economy is powered by a surprisingly small network of cities. And this pattern did not begin today. 2,000 years ago, the Roman world ran through cities like Rome, Alexandria, and Constantinople. Centuries later, the same structure appeared again in cities like London, Amsterdam, and Paris. Technology changed, but the system stayed the same. Power concentrates where people, trade, capital, and institutions intersect. Now let's look at something that makes this easier to understand. City budgets. Budgets are the fuel that allows a city to operate. They pay for transportation systems, public safety, sanitation, infrastructure, schools, and economic development. New York City operates with a budget of roughly $115 billion per year. Chicago operates around $19 billion. San Francisco operates near $16 billion. Los Angeles operates around $14 billion. Atlanta operates around $3 billion. Miami operates roughly $1 billion in operating resources. Those numbers come directly from municipal budget reports. Now let's translate that into simple terms. New York City's budget alone is larger than the entire economic output of some countries. Guatemala produces around $90 billion per year. Bulgaria produces roughly $100 billion. This means the government of one city moves more money than entire national economies. That is not a town. That is a sovereign-scale economic engine. But money alone does not explain why megacities attract so many people. Science provides another clue. Researchers studying cities discovered something interesting about human behavior. When the population of a city doubles, economic productivity does not simply double. Innovation and wealth creation increase by about 15% more than expected. In plain language, when more people live closer together, ideas collide more often. Think about it this way. In a town with 20,000 people, your network might include co-workers, neighbors, and a few local connections. In a city with 10 million people, you meet new people constantly, on trains, at universities, at conferences, at companies that only exist in large markets. More people means more connections. More connections means more opportunities. Cities function like engines for human interaction. But there are trade-offs. Living in a megacity often means higher housing costs, more competition for opportunities, and faster-paced daily life. Crowded transit systems and long commutes are common in large urban systems. Now here is the key insight. Not every city has a realistic path to becoming a megacity. Megacities usually sit on major transportation corridors. They have large surrounding populations feeding into them. They host major universities and global industries. and they operate with budgets large enough to maintain massive infrastructure systems. If those ingredients are missing, the growth engine cannot scale the same way. That does not mean smaller cities are failures. They simply play a different role in the system. And that leads to the most practical lesson from tonight's report. Cities operate like operating systems. Your phone works the way it does because of the system running underneath it. Cities work the same way. A city operating with a $1 billion budget provides a very different environment than a city operating with $100 billion. Moving between those systems can dramatically change the opportunities available to you. That does not mean everyone should move to a mega city, but it does mean understanding the system you are plugged into, because the system you operate inside shapes your exposure to opportunity, networks, and resources. So tonight, the question is not whether you like megacities. The question is which power grid you are building your life on. Are you operating on a 1 gigawatt system or a 100 gigawatt system? Because the grid you plug into quietly determines the ceiling of your potential. I'm Candace Goodman, and this has been the Good News Report.